Y en cambio tú dices lo siento, no te quiero. Y te me vas con esta historia entre tus dedos. ¿Qué vas a hacer? Date una excusa y luego márchate. Pero de mí no debieras preocuparte, no debes provocarme, que yo te escribiré un par de canciones, tratando de ocultar mis emociones, pensando pero poco en las palabras. Yo te hablaré de la sonrisa tan definitiva, tu sonrisa que a mí mismo
Hello, viewers.
me abrió tu paraíso.
It's James Kalm, your half-assed reporter, and we are down here at 155 Suffolk Street. We're going to run into Pierogi Gallery. We're going to try to snag this young lady, Jane Fine, and get her to walk us through her exhibition, Love, American Style. Oh, Jane.
Hey.
Okay. So we'll just go over and do a little sweep of the installation here first. We'll let Jane work with the makeup people and get prepped up here. Well, we snagged Jane Fine. Congratulations, the show looks good.
Why, thank you.
Okay, let's start up at this end. Let's talk a little bit about the show.
Sure.
Love American Style?
Yeah, did you watch that in your junior high school days?
I think that was before I was born.
So, the main theme, I mean, all the work in the show really came out of this political climate, without any question. Actually, can we talk about this painting first?
Sure.
Because this was a painting I was making. I had just started the painting before the last election. It was meant to be a joyous painting. It began at this point in September and October, where I thought we were about to have our first female president, and our son had started high school. I thought I had only happy things to look forward to.
Okay, just a second. This
Yes.
piece is titled Optimism Lost and Found for Odd Day at the Zuckerman Memorial Garden.
Yes. Although
And this is
yes.
acrylic on
Everything is
canvas,
all acrylic, yeah, everything-
72 by 60 inches, so it's 6 by 5
Yeah.
feet.
And it became a really interesting and complicated painting for me, because there was this beautiful, joyous start, this happy rainbow, which many people.
So that's how you saw Hillary Clinton as your happy, wonderful,
Well, I
perfect
just thought-
rainbow.
It's not that Hillary herself was perfect, but in so many ways it seemed like a really optimistic time. Remember back in the old days, 2 years ago? And,
I remember 8 years in the 90s, I already saw this. It was like, well, I saw Love American Style, and that was one time was enough. I saw the 90s, so okay, keep going.
and then, like many people, of course, there was complete horrible disappointment right after the election. But the other thing that was happening for me is not just, what I felt about Trump and the world at large, but I was so confused about how to continue with my work, because the studio was full of these joyous paintings, a lot of small paintings, nothing's in the show. And I was just beginning this. And so I ended up actually turning this painting around. It was only just begun. I thought, I don't know how I can get back to that spirit. And so the painting actually did, in the the first couple of months after the inauguration was this red, white, and blue one, which I think you will like the title. It's called So Much Winning.
So much winning.
Yeah, just a tiny twinge of sarcasm.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the technical stuff. Now, you were saying these are all acrylic.
They're all acrylic, and I'm super proud of the technical stuff. Like for all the acrylic nerds out there.
But weren't you, some of the work that I saw before, weren't you using enamel a lot, or was that?
Way back, when you very
back.
first knew me.
Okay.
Yeah, the very first show that you, like Pierogi 2000.
Okay, so, but what I'm thinking is that kind of the way that you're using the acrylics, you're kind of putting enough on, it's sort of like enamel, but it kind of, it's closing out the texture of the canvas, so you get a very smooth surface that you're working on.
Yeah, because what happened
And then you're doing these
yeah.
kind of, a lot of technical things, but some of them are these pores that you're using.
Yeah. So what happened was I did about a year, like in 2000 to 2001 or so, I was using enamel paint, and I got these kind of effects, all right? But what are the problems with enamel paint? Stinks to high heaven.
Right.
It's really toxic. It's impossible to use with the windows closed unless you want to, kill yourself. And the pigments are really limited. So it was just something I happened to. Actually, the very first piece was for a Crest Hardware show, and at any rate, what led me to working with acrylic that way is. Around 2001, I had read in a Golden Paint newsletter that they had done all the paint for the Pollock movie.
And it was all acrylic.
It was all acrylic. I don't know why. Maybe
fakers?
Union rules or something. And what's his name? Harris didn't want to breathe enamel. I don't know why. So I called them up at the time and asked them some questions about how they had gotten those effects. They could tell me some things, but I was really interested in this idea of these. These very rigid edges, which was not anything they knew about.
The pores.
They told me how to get that super sheen and how to get this kind of.
Well, is that because you've got some kind of medium that you're mixing in there?
It's all mediums, yeah. And so it took me like months of kind of trial and error with, and phone calls to them to kind of figure it out. And it used to be like some of the paintings. You saw mine way back, like those pores were really determining the whole painting. Like one pore would be much more. So now it's kind of step back into being one of many ingredients in the whole painting.
And I notice you've got these black squares in a lot of them. That's kind of a motif. Like a patch on there, or is this a reference to the Melovich paintings? Let's look at some of the little ones too.
That's interesting. No one's made the Melovich connection before you.
I guess they're too busy winning to notice that stuff. One of the things that I like about, and in certain ways I could almost classify this as two bodies of work, because it seems to me that the small pieces like this, you're using some kind of pen. Is that a paint marker?
So yes and no.
Yes or no? These are kind of like drawings.
So the reason it's a yes or no, the yes is more obvious. It is made with a pen. But the reason it's no is that good move there. The reason it's no is that the pen is actually a refillable marker and it's filled with paint. So it's actually what's making this. The material of that is the same as the material of everything else.
Sure.
It's all acrylic paint. Which
actually, this is a good piece to kind of segue into.
Yeah.
Compra America, is that what the term?
I called it Well, I loved when they were always saying compromat, so I made up my own word of compromadica.
So, and one of the things I wanted to talk about and that I had noticed is that we were talking about using the pen and kind of the very slippery drawing that you can do with that. And I noticed that you have gotten in there with the brush. Am I right?
Yes. And this is where I think
exactly
the same material.
The drawing and the very slippery, and that's what I was thinking. Probably why you want to have the smooth canvas so that you could really slide your brush around there and get this nice slippery drawing going.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a good painter, my friend. Yeah, so, and it's the exact same, like this very thin, very slippery, opaque acrylic is exactly what I put into the markers. So it's just...
But again, you know, you're talking about, so you've got stuff like this drips up here in the corner, and then you've got these kinds of patchwork areas that you've kind of painted in, which is more of a kind of a standard painting thing. Then you've got your slippery drawing thing, so you are kind of putting a lot of things together to get these paintings to actually happen.
I just think it's fun. You know, this is, okay, one of my strong feelings is that in the last, I don't know, what, 10 years? I mean, how many paintings, you know, how much of the art world exists just by JPEG, right? Like,
too damn much.
Way too damn much, right? You know, people put their work out digitally, you know, galleries, museums, collectors, curators just see it digitally, it gets sold digitally. And I, you know, maybe my age or just my interest, I just feel like I want to really push against that and make paintings that are absolutely different in person, like they're things technically in the paintings that will not come across.
Actually, I like this one. I think you really get into the kind of the grinding, drawing, slipping, sliding, putting it all in there.
Like, not that they don't look bad digitally, but like you, because you and I are in the same physical space now, can see that there's a sparkle, like there's a little, you know, a little bit of relief to this black here, and it's sparkle.
And also
like very
that this gray area is actually kind of a metallic gray, but it's not like shiny mirrored
it's slightly
silver.
Metallic,
It's it's shiny and metallic.
Right, and it's super hard to photograph. Or like the fact that there's all these different sheens. Like when you photograph them,
it all flattens out.
It flattens out.
That's why video is so nice.
And it kind of messes up because parts are more reflective than others. So either you have to Photoshop back the values or...
okay, give us a title on this one.
Okay, this one is called Foreign Influences.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a shout out to my dear husband, the artist James Esber.
I thought that there might be some pieces in here that were done by Mr. James.
Teeny tiny bits.
I can see where they are.
Yeah, there's five. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco.
We kept the number down.
And it's because we were doing this massive cleanup of our basement. Hey, look who's here. And this one, you know, he doesn't work on canvas anymore. He had a bunch of old.
So he's working on panels now? Is that what he's doing? Okay.
And so he gave me a bunch of his old stretchers he didn't want. But this particular one, he said, you know, whatever, why waste canvas? I barely ever worked on this. You might as well just paint right over it. And it kind of weirded me out. Like I brought it into the studio.
But you guys have done collaborative work together, right?
We have.
And you have a name of kind of a nom de guerre.
J-Fiber. Yes, I'm very
J-Fiber. Okay.
J-Fiber. But I thought, you know, I was working towards the show, and for a few moments, I thought maybe this could be a collaborative piece. But it was like, his painting wasn't really that. It didn't really make sense to me. And so then in the end, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to paint over 99% of it and just save a few little tiny bits I like. So I saved these little bits. But I think of it as more, you know, I think of it as like a found, you know, it's almost more like a collage, the way you could glue something to.
Right. How about your palette? Am I wrong? But it seems like at least this side of the gallery, you've kind of bumped up the palette, or maybe you've had larger areas of like one color things going on? Is that, am I wrong, or is?
I just wanted to open it, you know. Part of the thing was trying to really open up the surface, like just be bolder and braver and have much more empty space in the paintings.
How about the question of, you know, you're doing a lot of things and you're influenced by political ideas and things like that, but on the other hand, you also have the painterly side. Do those ever come into conflict, or does one take priority over the other?
How do you make it beautiful?
Well, yeah, that's it. How do you make a great painting that might have some kind of maybe subversive or political meaning or intent that doesn't overwhelm it and turn it into some kind of
like
propaganda or
a march,
well, something.
You know,
I mean, I see a lot of people that have, you know, gone into the very bitter side of things since the election, and
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't do much for, it doesn't make the work better. At least I don't think so. Maybe there's a group of people that love that stuff, but I think in the long run that's going to kind of wear out.
I mean, I think I've been trying for like decades to figure out how to make work that's both really personal and really, let's say, at least socially engaged, if not necessarily political. But I was thinking this the other day that, in a way, for like a long time, I've been ping-ponging back and forth between some work that's a little more personal and some work that's a little more, let's say, at least social, if not directly political. And I think maybe because everything about this current administration has, I'll just speak for myself, but I think many people so anxious and that it's on my mind almost all day, every day, that I feel like it's really helped me get to a place in the work where I can combine very personal and very political.
Okay, let's keep moving down here.
You haven't even asked me about the swastikas yet.
Well, that's what I was going to be talking about. So, okay, I don't see a swastika.
No, I don't think there's
Let's
any
talk about this one here, because this is all very kind of blown up scale here. So we're talking about your swastika.
Yeah.
So we've got the swastika down here. What's the title of this piece?
This one is called Rise Up.
Rise Up.
Yeah. So
Okay, so we've got our swastika there. We've got our six-pointed star, Star of David up.
Okay, so
that's not
come
like
over
a
here
hard-edged
for a second.
star. That's kind of a soft, kind of
Yeah,
a mushy marshmallow Star of David.
So
Okay.
come over this way, because this
Okay.
painting, which is called After Charlottesville, that I'm fairly certain were the first swastikas that I used, and there's quite a lot of them hidden away down here. And I made this pretty much the week or two after Charlottesville, so that's what, a year and a little bit ago. And I was so, whatever, as most thinking people, feeling people, we know, enraged, but I just thought, like, first of all, how dare these hideous people march around with swastikas, but, maybe I need to start drawing swastika in this mocking way. And
I think Kippenberger actually did a painting. It was all a bunch of broken swastikas, but the title of the painting was "I Can't See Any Swastikas Here."
really, I have to look that up.
No, it's a great painting.
Oh, that's interesting. And so I very rarely draw for my paintings, but
You mean make studies for them?
make it actual, yes, sorry,
Okay.
thank you for being more articulate, yes. I very rarely make a specific drawing for a painting. And, but one morning, about like a little over a year ago, I think early August, I just, we were on vacation, and I just woke up and I made I don't even know if it was 5 minutes, 2-minute sketch of this. I'm just on a maybe 5-inch by 7-inch moleskin, just a swastika, something that looked kind of like a poop pile on top of it. Swastika, the like dirt pile, flower, and the Jewish star. And I actually just laughed out loud. I thought it was so
So there
funny.
seems to be some kind of a message of transcendence. You have the
Yeah, and I just
kind of
thought,
the bottom here, and then the fertilizer on top of that, and out of that is growing some kind of a flower of hope or something, and then
Yeah.
beaming out of that is your
yeah.
Star
And
of
I just-
David and the sunrise, let's say.
I think one of the things to me was, of course, the absolute disgust at people marching around with swastikas, but I think one thing that's happened to me, and I think many people in the last couple of years, is feeling like if, Trump and his people are going to go around insulting basically everybody that isn't a conservative, straight, white male, then all the rest of us are kind of need to fly our freak flags or Jew flags or whatever. And from the, I think my whole life I just took being a certain kind of secular New York Jew for granted. I mean, I grew up with so many, it doesn't seem particularly unique, but I suddenly had this urge not just to paint the swastika, but then to paint a Jewish star and just think, I'm going to, in some way, celebrate this thing. That's just
and you've also got some other things. You've got your dollar signs in there and some other signs, symbols,
and
insignias.
Dollar signs, in so many decades of
like here.
my work, almost every new body of work, I tried to think of some new things to stir into the abstract language, right? So the flags have been there maybe, 10 years in different ways. Different things keep coming in, and as I was starting to prepare this whole body of work, I thought of the dollar sign, and it seemed really perfect, partly because of its shape, right? I mean, when you think about the curves, it just relates to my natural hand, right? If you look at this, it's not this kind of stuff, which just comes so naturally. It's not that far from that to the actual dollar sign. And then, of course, I thought of it as how much fun in terms of how much fun it was to draw, but then I also thought, what is the message, on the news all the time? Like, don't be distracted by the sex stories. Don't be distracted by the, Trump's golfing or this or that. Just like follow the money, right? Follow the corruption. Pay attention to the money that's coming from Russia to the condos, to the businesses. So then I guess the dollar sign had this real double, double, triple meaning for me.
Okay. Well, that was a nice little stroll through there. I got another question for you.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up on this. When you look at paintings and people that have inspired you, and you're talking about maybe trying to get some political things in there and some other kinds of personal things in there, who do you look at? Who inspires you? Who do you think has done that successfully that you might use as a model, or maybe somebody who's you want to extend their legacy of?
Well, the original one, of course, is Guston, because I think what Guston did is that he was able to mix popular culture with political commentary, and I think that's that really is at the essence of my work. Like, how do you, and he made work I think that's really beautiful. So
and he knew how to paint. He knew how to slather the material around.
And he made a very conscious decision to not just make pretty pictures, but to really come out of that and be in the world and engage in the world and try to be vulnerable, like make fun of himself and his big fat belly and his alcoholism and his smoking.
There is a humor.
And maybe through acknowledging his own vulnerability, talk about the world and talk about politics. And so, I mean, that's probably the biggest single. And I think Leon Golub in a really different way. Like, I don't directly take from the, as much technically, and I think his spirit is really different, but when I think back to the first time I saw those Sandinista paintings, I mean, those blew my mind. And I think in a very different kind of way, he managed to do things with a process that expressed political content. When you see those in person, they're different than they are in reproduction.
Absolutely.
When you have that sense of the scraped surface, it feels so violent and vicious.
And also, he was somebody that was kind of shut out of the art world for about 20 years and couldn't get a show anywhere. Kept grinding away, and then suddenly he pops out with all these masterpieces, and everybody has to sort of go, gee, where were we? We missed all this. Why didn't we look at this 15 or 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jane Fine, Love American Style. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. And it's here at Pierogi. What's the address again?
155 Suffolk Street.
155 Suffolk Street. Okay, well, you can like this, subscribe and share, and you can leave your comments, criticisms, but nothing bad about Jane, below But as we always do at the end of these people, we ask you to say, thank you, Kate.
Gracias.
Thank you. That was great. Great.
Gracias.